This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube with a daily wrestling news update today, by the way, at 4 p.m. WWE Hall of Famer, former AWA and WCW star Larry Zbyszko will be joining me 4 p.m. Eastern. Speaking of WWE, this is your poster for Wrestlemania coming up. And for the people that say that Triple H does not have a bigger ego than Vince McMahon, he's not even an active character on the show. He's made himself the lead character on their Unreal show, and he tries to be the Dana White of WWE. But you don't see Dana White putting himself on posters for UFC. This guy has put himself the center of the poster along with Roman Reigns. How many matches has Roman Reigns even had this year? Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are the two highest paid guys in WWE. Reigns is not over anywhere near what he used to be. And I got nothing against those two guys. They're probably the two best guys in the WWE right now, but Roman has lost a lot of his popularity, and so is Brock. Cody's lost pretty much a lot of his. Cody Rhodes is nowhere near as over as he was. Punk's is going down too due to stuff like contradicting himself on his views on Saudi Arabia, where people lose respect. But anyways, a lot of people are upset because there's no females on it, but just the whole thing where Triple H has made himself the center of the poster, as if he's the biggest star in WWE for his genius creative ideas, where we're seeing lots of chinks in the armor these days. And they didn't sell out in Vegas last year. I highly don't think they're going to sell out this year. But they're not doing as bad as AEW. AEW Dynamite only did 459,000 viewers for Dynamite this week. That's down 57.9% from last year, the same week. They only did a 0.08 rating. People can make up any excuses they want. The numbers don't lie. Those are horrible numbers. I also listened to Wrestling Observer Radio today, where there was some interesting notes. Dave Meltzer was talking about how nobody talks about wrestlers fighting wrestlers anymore, and like toughness in wrestling doesn't matter. Well, toughness in wrestling clearly does matter when so many people are tuning out. But I will say that people bring up all the time who's tougher between Haku and Brock Lesnar. They don't talk about current stars. They talk about Lesnar and Haku, which I wish one of the companies would use Haku for something, because he's one of the most over old timers in wrestling. He'd be more over than his kids in WWE these days, and I'm not taking anything away from them. But people ask about Lesnar versus Haku all the time because Haku's a street fighter. Lesnar did have some success in UFC, but two of his last three fights he lost in first round knockouts, and his last one was technically a no contest because he failed the drug test. So when he beat Randy Couture, I'm not saying Lesnar's not tough. As I said, he's probably my favorite guy in WWE. But when he beat Randy Couture, Randy Couture is not really a true heavyweight, and the heavyweight division was weak. And they wanted him to get quite an easy way to that title shot because he was good for business. But he didn't last long as champ, and his last fights were not very impressive. I'm not saying that he's not the best guy they have right now. I still think that he is. The other thing Meltzer was talking about that's worth bringing up is Foley has pretty much become only known for his Hell in the Cell match. People don't really talk about any other of his matches. And I was even talking about this to John Paz not too long ago, because Paz has done a few interviews with Foley and so has Rick Bassman that have aired on my channel, and they have not done well. You would think that, oh, Mick Foley, he's so popular, he's going to do good numbers on YouTube, but he really doesn't do great numbers on YouTube. And I know that Eric Embry used him on a few events that he was involved with promoting a few years ago, where they ended up doing free kids tickets close to the events because tickets weren't selling that well. So I don't know if he's well. There's no doubt he was great, but I don't think he's in the category of a long-term draw, because people really only talk about that one match. I'll never forget taking one of my my mom's friends took me to a wrestling match during the Attitude Era that had Mick Foley against Shawn Michaels, and another one took me to Mick Foley against Mark Henry, or sorry, no, Mark Mero. And he was very lazy for house show matches. I remember my mom's friend looking at me and saying, I thought this guy was supposed to do crazy stuff, but he may have done it differently in his younger days, but he definitely had a house show mode. And I don't blame him for it, but I'm just saying the narrative that every night in WWE was going out there and killing himself. No, he was careful about it. And I'm glad he's okay. Even though he yelled at me the night of the Montreal screw job when I ended up driving him back because he went to the wrong hotel and my friend's dad drove him to the right hotel. And then I had said Ric Flair was my favorite wrestler at that time, and he lost it on me. But speaking of that, the reason they were talking about the Hell in the Cell is because they were talking about what are the most famous matches of the modern era. And even though I don't particularly like the Foley versus Undertaker one because it was just stunts, and I'd seen them wrestle so many times, I didn't even care about the feud by that point. You got to put it on there. It's one of the most talked about matches. I'll agree with them on that. Hart versus Michaels, which I was there for in Montreal. Everybody talks about that match, even though the match itself, the main thing memorable about it was the finish, which a lot of people say was a work now, which very possible. And Hogan versus Andre. Everyone always talks about that match. So I will agree with them on those three matches being the most famous matches of the modern era. You guys can let me know what you think about that in the comments. John, yes, we can see your messages. I don't think you're banned. Foley was instrumental in the Attitude Era. I liked him best as Cactus Jack in WCW. I'll be perfectly honest, I was never into the Mr. Sacco stuff. I'm not saying that he wasn't used and one of the main guys, but I wasn't. I was more of a WCW fan during the Attitude Era, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought they had the more entertaining product. Rock versus Hogan would be definitely up there, but I don't know if it's talked about more than those other matches. Jabber basically watches old WWF stuff. I do that too. I'd rather watch, it's sad, I'd rather watch 80s WWE matches. Or recently, WWE uploaded, I guess it was 4 months ago, but they sent it to me, a 1992 Superstars taping from Cornwall, Ontario, that I happened to be at. So I recently watched that whole taping, and I actually got enjoyment out of that on the WWE's channel. I'd rather watch that than anything from their current product. Happy Day of the Dead in Mexico. That's pretty cool. How's Piper, Mike? I heard about her. She's in Chicoutimi, Quebec right now, and she was enjoying Halloween yesterday. She's doing well. Yeah, Jammer. I didn't. The Mr. Sacco stuff was goofy. I didn't like that. I liked Cactus Jack when he was still trying to prove himself and he was pushing the envelope more. And it was less about. I've never been a guy that's into long in-ring promos, which I found he did a lot in the Attitude Era. I was not a fan of that. But I'm not taking anything away from him, I'm not hating on him, but I'm just saying, like, people don't talk about much about him other than that Hell in the Cell match. The Foley thing with The Rock, where he took all those chair shots, was where he basically let The Rock take advantage of him, and the company remembered that and always used him. Mike, I'd rather see El Gigante against Cactus Jack too. R.I.P. Giant Gonzalez. Meet me back here. I'll ask Larry Zabisco about Mick Foley at 4 p.m. when I have